time for MacBreak Weekly, episode 194. Frederick Van Johnson and Andy Ihnatko are here, and so is Steve Jobs. Once again, an inscrutable email reply. We'll talk about iPad sales, the iPad 1 month after, and a whole lot more. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 194 for May 11th, 2010. Smells like NAS. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Visiting important contacts from New York to LA and Bangalore to London is time-consuming and expensive. You have your meetings online instead with GoToMeeting. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/MacBreak. And by Drobo, the original S Pro, the new Elite and FS, offering expandable storage products for individuals, small businesses, and creative teams. For more information and instant rebates, visit drobo.com/MacBreak. And by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly. By the way, did I not start Windows Weekly last week saying it's time for Windows Weekly, everything you want to know about Apple? I believe I did. And so I'm going to say everything you ever want to know about Macintosh. No, everything you ever want to know about Windows on today's show. No, I shouldn't do that. That'll confuse everybody. We are going to talk about Apple things, and we're going to do it with our good friend Andy Ihnatko from Boston. Good to see you again, the Chicago Sun-Times and Celestial Waste of Bandwidth. And we welcome back our prodigal son. He has returned, ladies and gentlemen. Frederick Van Johnson in the house.
Hello. Hello.
Frederick, we had to banish Frederick because we have this crazy policy that if you work for a company that we cover, we won't have you on the show. We have to try to, have independent journalists on the show. And you got a job. How dare you?
I know.
With our sponsor, Drobo.
I know. But
you're not there anymore.
I'm here now.
So I could do a Drobo commercial in this show without any fear of conflict of interest.
You can.
Good, I will, as a matter of fact.
I allow that. Go ahead.
Frederick also hosts This Week in Photography, which is on Twit on Mondays, but it's not. It's a Pixel Corp production, so I know it's confusing, but it's a different thing.
Yep.
And they have more lenient editorial policies, I'm afraid, than we do.
We do. Lenient, but
no, I think it's probably true on a photography.
Drobo's not a sponsor,
right? Yeah. So that you don't cover Drobo on This Week in Photography, so it's not really an issue. When you worked for Adobe, we couldn't have you on This Week in Photography.
That's right,
because you were talking about Lightroom.
Like all your morals,
By the way, you will be glad to know that I tried. I really did. Aperture. I tried. I got Aperture 3. I paid for it $2.99 or whatever hideous cost it was, and I bought the NIC plugins for it, and I really tried.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I went back to Lightroom. It's just it's too slow. Do you use Aperture, Andy?
Yeah. I think they're both great programs, but the Aperture is just so much more Mac-like. And when the big letter that Steve Jobs posted about why they're banning Flash, the first instant I thought of is, yep, Adobe makes Lightroom, and it's a very fine app for both Windows and for Macintosh, and it's identical on both Windows.
That's
and
right. In fact, I install it on both.
Right. But it doesn't exploit the Mac interface the way that Aperture does. It really feels like a Mac program. Also, I don't like the really methodical step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 approach that Lightroom puts you through.
The modules.
Yeah, exactly. To put you through your stuff. Because sometimes I'm in a sort mode, sometimes I'm in just a mess around and apply tags mode. For a highly disordered and disorganized mind, I think Aperture is the way to go.
Aperture for the disordered mind.
Yeah, I mean they're both great apps, right? I mean, and it just depends on how your brain is wired and the speed of your processor. Right?
Well, I have to say, Aperture to me feels even. Now, I have an i7 15. I got the new 15-inch i7, and it still feels slow to me. Whereas Lightroom, bam.
Yeah.
And one thing I do with Lightroom, and maybe this is one of the things that speeds it up, is I don't import the pictures. You know what? Derek's story inspired me to my technique of photo manipulation. He said what you should do is first copy the session and name and copy it to the hard drive. Name it. You know, like this was my pictures of Coit Tower. Name it. Leave it, and then import it into Aperture or Lightroom and work with the photos there. So you copy and then import. And I used to import from the card, but he says copy first, right, then import. And I've been doing that, except that I haven't been moving the files into the Lightroom catalog or Lightroom folder. When I moved them into the Apertures folder, it really took a long time to absorb.
I mean, I use referenced, so I do the same thing. I copy them over to my hard drive, and I have my own little hierarchy there. And I'm using Lightroom and Aperture right now.
I can import thousands of. Well, you tell me, because I can import thousands of pictures into Lightroom in a minute or two. And Aperture, I mean, I go away. I go make a fine cup of coffee with my plunger.
Yeah, there may be some settings in there. You may have it set to build gigantic previews.
You think it's just as fast?
It's you know, it depends on what you're doing. So I think Lightroom is blazingly fast when you're skipping through things, but if you use Aperture and you put it in a mode where it's only going to look at the preview files when you're doing your culling, it's just as fast.
Okay.
So it just depends.
So I'm doing something wrong.
And I can show you that
in my settings. No, I don't want to use it. I like Lightroom. Don't show me the error of my ways. I'm perfectly happy in my ignorance.
And I can show you Lightroom stuff too. So
I love Lightroom. Well, you know, remember I went on the Lightroom adventure with Mikkel Oland. We went to Tasmania.
The one I missed.
Yeah, and as a result, that's right, you were supposed to be there. And as a result,
I paid for it.
You paid for it? Yes. And you didn't go?
No.
Who went in your place?
I think it was Winston. Winston,
the boss. That's what happened. The boss got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's where I kind of got a fondness for Lightroom because Melinda Gall was there, and I just learned a lot I learned.
It's a great app.
It's a great
app. Yeah.
Anyway, I tried to like Aperture, and Andy, I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
It's perfectly fine. I had both of them on my Mac for a long time. It just turned out that Aperture was always the app that I was going to, partly because it was easier to use as far as I was concerned, partly because of the style that just lets you do whatever you want whenever you want. But I really found that the answers to the problems that I had with certain pictures, I could find those answers much more quickly with Aperture than with Lightroom. Like if you're just saying this skin tone has a little bit of a blue cast on it from the flash, but nowhere else, and the ability to simply change just the cast of that area. It's just one click, one slide, done.
You know what's missing out of Aperture? Negative clarity. So there's a clarity slider.
You can turn it down.
Yeah, you can like drag it to the left.
I don't know why you'd want to do that.
Well, for smoothing skin and doing that kind of thing.
Oh, for pictures of my wife. Yeah. Oh, jeez, I'm in trouble now.
You're just digging a grave.
Oh my God.
You're digging a grave.
I didn't mean my wife. I meant my girlfriend. Oh no, wait a minute. Now I'm really in trouble. No, I will try Aperture again. One thing I do miss in Lightroom is the loop. The loop in Aperture is so great because it's flexible size. You can move it around. In Lightroom, you know, it kind of does the same thing, but not quite.
It's just different. Yeah. There's no physical loop, right? You're zooming in or you're zooming out. There's no graphical thing that's sitting on your image.
It seems like there's only 2 zoom levels on Aperture.
Yeah.
I mean, on Lightroom.
On Lightroom, right?
You're either in or out.
100% or you're out.
Yeah. And see, I love the fact that I can do a lot more. Anyway, that. So, okay. And Aperture does video, which is why I switched.
It does.
But Lightroom 3 is going to do video.
It does.
Anyway.
And if you're going to do books and all that stuff.
How did this turn into This Week in Photography? I'm sorry.
Because I'm here.
That's what it was. No more. Let's move on.
All right.
There are stories, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me ask Andy how Bermuda was.
Oh, Bermuda was extremely cool, especially because it was unlike most of the cruises that Inside Cruises MacMania does, where there was bad weather for the first port in Bermuda, so we just went right to the second one. So we spent 3 days like 3 or 4 days in dock at the same place, which was incredible because it was there wasn't that pressure to look we're here from 7:30 in the morning and we got to be back on the ship by 4:30. We have to do something awesome during that one period. It also meant that there was not an Apple store. There was an iStore. Even though this iStore had exactly the same furniture as an Apple store and the exact same demo.
Is it owned by Apple?
Now this was people on. I was discussing this with people on in Bermuda and people on Twitter, that apparently in Bermuda there is if I understood correctly, there is a law that says that you can't have a company come in and simply own a store. It has to be a majority owned by locals. And what I've been told, I haven't looked into this myself, what I was told by some other people is that often Apple has the ability to simply allow stores to buy the exact same fixtures and furnishings and maybe even run things from the same playbook if it is within Apple's interest or something. This is not stuff that I looked into as a respected journalist. This is things I just looked into as a dude said, hey, how come they got it looks like an Apple store and it works just like an Apple store, but it ain't an Apple store. But the point is that this was like just 2 blocks away from where the cruise ship was docked. It had free open Wi-Fi, just like an Apple store. So almost every single morning, like on my way to the beach or on my way anywhere, it would be, let's stop off at the Apple store and get in a good 20 minutes of real free Wi-Fi. It also meant that the very, very topmost deck closest to shore was the one of the unofficial meeting points for if you want to see anybody on the Mac cruise, because it was sometime late in the first day, it was figured out that the signal was so strong that if you were in this exact spot at this exact bar, and it helped out a little bit if you would actually hold your iPad or your iPhone out over the rail a little bit, you could still get 1 or 2 bars of their Wi-Fi and download your email for free. So.
Well, I am going on the next one to South America, and that is
Antarctica.
And Antarctica
Could not have been more different.
I am, yeah. You know, it's funny because we leave from Buenos Aires, where the average temperature in January, or I guess it's February, is 80 degrees because it's summer there and south of the equator. And then when we get to Antarctica, we have to wear, they have the list of things you have to wear, like 8 layers. I mean, it's freezing, even though it's the summertime in Antarctica. So we're going to go from, I'm going to have to pack 2 bags, one for 80-degree humid, and one for minus 20.
What are you doing on these things? Are you teaching? Are you
Yeah, we teach, right, Andy? We give classes. Andy does a great class, by the way. I love Andy's classes.
If you're part of faculty, I gave, this was sort of a light one for me. I gave 6 hours worth of classes on 4 different topics, and from just 1,000 tips in 90 minutes. I didn't get all 1,000, but I got to about 30 or 40 of them. Wow. A class on iPhone tips. I did one that was what was the third one? But another one was turning a house network into a home network, making things a little homey, just things like that. Then they get some really the big side benefit for me, apart from getting to take this really cool cruise, is I'm often sitting in on some of these great classes.
Yes.
Off the top, we talked about Derek and his photo classes, and I sat in on it. I've been using Aperture for a few years now, but I've never actually sat through a real class on it. And within a half hour, as always happens whenever I take one of Derek's classes, it's, okay, so the thing that I thought I've known how to do for 10 years, I've been doing it completely wrong.
I've been using this wrong. Yeah.
And it was absolutely true. He started off just by talking about importing photos, and I was one of those people who would just have it import directly into the Aperture library, so I was maintaining multiple libraries. His first thing was walking through, here are all the things that Aperture can do for you automatically every time you point it at a card full of photos. And again, I was like furiously typing, thinking, yes, that is better.
Yeah. Derek has a great lynda.com series up there too.
On Aperture? I think, okay, now I have to do that and give Aperture its fair trial.
So I am jealous that you guys went on this thing, but I'm going on one.
You are?
Yeah, in November.
Yeah. Oh, you're going on MacMania 10.5?
No, this is not MacMania. This is a camera cruise. So it's a photography oriented cruise.
Who's doing that? That sounds
in Mexico. Great. It's a friend of mine, so I'll post a link to it on my blog.
Would you? And what is your blog? FrederickVan.com.
FrederickVan.com. FrederickVan.com.
Right, now we've all plugged our cruises.
Yeah.
InsightCruises.com for the Andy, are you going to Patagonia? Are you going to do that one, or you're not?
No.
You're not on that one.
I would love to, though. I mean, there are a lot of people on these cruises who've done like 2 or 3 or 4 of these MacMania cruises, and a lot of it was just people talking about. So I read that this is what you have to do once you get to Antarctica, and you have to have this. This camera will work, but you don't need that camera. And I'm like, I wish I was going to South. I wish I was going to Antarctica.
Well, what did you go tell Captain Neil you want to come? It's probably all booked up now.
Well, I got drunk and I took a swing on him like on day 3, so I don't think that's.
I was really
I'll tell you another thing about you damn folks.
This is really.
Don't target a ship. It's just a damn boat. It's a float itself.
He sounds like the guy from The Simpsons. He was a drunk guy, Barney.
Hey, Homer.
You got to do the lip wave when you belch. So John Gruber has a great post which I really like, and he's talking about the Engadget article they go back and they look at court filings that Apple finally admits in the court filing, and the court filings are, by the way, from I think last year, maybe 2 years ago. They're fairly old court filings. that Apple admits, yes, we have a 5-year exclusive deal with, or we had a 5-year exclusive deal with AT&T. So, of course, the headline everywhere, and Gruber points this out, is Apple confirms AT&T's iPhone exclusivity until 2012. But as Engadget points out, but is, of course, overlooked, anything could have changed since then. Contracts aren't written in stone. And as Gruber says, that, this is an example of the media just kind of not paying attention to the facts and so forth. And, in fact, we're seeing now some information that indicates maybe there will be a Verizon iPhone at some point soon. Let me see if I can find that story.
Now, has AT&T really been that bad for you, Leo?
I think AT&T... Oh, boy, I'm going to get some hate mail on this. I think they might get a little bit of a bad rap.
Because they work fine for me. I mean, I drop a call every now and then.
I drop more calls, I think, on AT&T.
But maybe I'm just, in the areas that I travel in, maybe I'm just blanketed, but it's been fine. The only time AT&T has really screwed me has been at, like, NAB or...
Where there's a lot of iPhone users.
Yeah, there's a large concentration of geeks, but, other than that, it's been okay.
Andy, what about you?
It's in my opinion doesn't matter. It depends on where you live and where you work. In New England, all the places where I hang out, I'm getting 5 bars of AT&T. I've had a few dropped calls, but nothing to really raise my eyebrows. That said, I almost always have a Verizon phone somewhere in the house for testing, and I will say that I do get better coverage on Verizon. There was sometimes God is looking out for a certain company because God realizes that Andy's reviewing a Verizon phone this week. I really want I hate my AT&T coverage too. So let's really stick it to AT&T.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. God hates AT&T.
Yeah. Andy, pay no attention to the Verizon van in front of your place with the antenna sticking up.
And as the Bible says, as it is in heaven, so it is on earth.
Yes.
I was reviewing the Droid, and my car broke down like in the middle of the highway. And I'm on the side of the road. Of course, I have an AT&T phone and the Verizon Droid, and of course, no bars on AT&T, full 5-bar strength in the middle of nowhere on the side shoulder of a highway on Verizon. Yeah. But it's not such a big difference on the network that I would choose a phone based on which network I could use.
Yeah. I do think that AT&T drops more calls. I really do. Now, having said that, the 3G iPad is fine. I mean,
that's the problem, though. Why do I have to pay extra money when I'm already paying on my iPhone? So that gets me. And then the fact that they still haven't enabled tethering.
They said they would.
It's been, 18 months, 2 years?
Yeah, they said they would. They said they'd have it the end of last year, right?
So it's like either jailbreak and you get it, or, you're just screwed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no way around it. I have a MiFi. I like it a lot. It's $60 a month versus what would be $30 a month for the iPad plus $20 a month for the iPhone. But the fact that I can use it on anything that I have, including multiples simultaneously, makes it a good deal for me.
There is a way to tether the iPad. There's a little kind of mini jailbreak you can do the iPad on the iPhone and the iPad, if you've jailbroken the phone, there are easy ways to enable tethering because that is a feature that's enabled internationally. It's just AT&T. Yeah, the capabilities there, right?
Yeah. That's the only thing I'd want to do. If I jailbroke my phone or the iPad, is just to be able to tether it.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a really big problem for Apple in the future because when you plug I have the new HTC Incredible that I'm going to be publishing a review of next week, and when you plug in USB, I plug it in by USB chiefly just to get pictures off of it. But the first thing it asks you is, here are all the things I can do if I'm plugged in via USB. Would you like me to be an internet source for you? I'm like, yes, I would very much, Mr. Incredible. But unfortunately, today I just want to evaluate your photo capabilities.
Tell that phone I hate it.
Yeah.
It's Android is great. In fact, a couple of stories. Let me get first to the Verizon story. This is from Crunch Gear. Landor Associates, the rumor goes, working on an iPhone campaign for Verizon. The rumor mill is churning, says Crunch Gear, about a company called Landor Associates, which does very good stuff, by the way. Working on an advertising campaign for Verizon. Landor has been working on Verizon branding since 2007 and is, according to a tipster, hard at work preparing for the iPhone HD launch. Is that what the fourth iPhone is going to be, the HD?
I wonder what that phone's going to look like.
Yeah. You saw the video, which really confirms it now. The video of them putting together the assembly of the case and the screen. Yeah. And it's the same exact case.
Is it?
You know, the outside.
Yeah.
And I think it was you who said it, Andy. It's the styling, the iPad styling. It's the new style, and that makes sense.
That sort of crisp edge.
It probably wasn't me. I was the one who said that I don't know if that's going to be the final thing at all. But
I'll tell you, once you see this video, let me see if I can find it for you.
Chrome is gone, huh? So this whole Chrome edge thing is over.
Yeah, we're going to have square edges. They show the assembly being put together, and there's just no way this thing is faked.
Yeah.
I
didn't think it was fake. I just didn't know if that was going to be the absolute final case design or not.
Well, I don't know either. This is from Smartphone Medic. They do smartphone repairs. And let me make it full screen. And you can see. I mean, he's actually putting the screen into the body of the case.
It is very iPad-y.
And yeah, it has that square feel. It is an LCD screen.
No, I haven't seen this video before. This is the Gizmodo phone?
No.
Yeah.
This is in a completely separate company doing a completely separate thing.
Wait, but where did they get that from?
I don't know. Well, as somebody pointed out, if you're going to ramp up for June production, there's a lot of people who have this now.
Oh.
But I mean, this is not fake. That's too good.
Yeah, but I know it's not fake. I'm still wondering where they got it. That is one. I'm sure this will not cause us to lose our rating, but that is one ballsy thing to do.
To show that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have to admit up front, I don't know what sort of things you have to sign in order to get the contract to fix things or make parts for things. But the last thing I would be doing if I had any sort of a legitimate business relationship is to say, you know what, I'm going to post, especially knowing what happened with the last time one of these got out in the field without Apple's control. That's interesting.
How to burn a bridge, right?
And the front-facing camera is in there. The split buttons for volume, the square metal case. And I don't know if Smartphone Medic has an excuse.
You mean a defense?
A defense. But boy, that video is very clear. I would say there's no doubt whatsoever at this point that's the 4G or the next whatever. Is it going to be called the HD? Why is that like the Tech Crunch just says, oh, the iPhone HD, as if that's like accepted.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't either. Anyway.
That's also aren't they going to have to? It's sort of like when they call the standard for 100 megabit Ethernet fast Ethernet. Don't you feel like you're going to waste the word HD if you choose to use that for the first device,
and then, which is not HD? And then if you do an HD device, then what do you say?
Right, HD for real,
true HD, real HD.
Yeah,
we were lying last time.
Are they still using a moniker in the iTunes store for 8? Remember they were going to do the apps and brand them iPad apps with HD.
Well, I don't know if was that official, because I know a lot of apps are branded HD, but they're not HD either. So I don't. Right. I mean, 1024 by 768 is not what I'd call HD.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was like Epson when they started with their HD printers. It's like it's not really.
Hold on, hold on there. Hold on. All right, we're going to talk more about the iPad. Apple has filed for a very interesting trademark. WWDC news. There's a lot to talk about today. We are blessed by Frederick Van Johnson. What are you doing now instead of Drobo?
You know what? It's funny you asked that, Leo. I started a company.
Wow. What's it called?
It's called Mediabytes.
BYTES?
Correct. You got it right on the first try. Mediabytes.com. So it's a social media marketing company for creatives like me.
Only old farts like me and maybe Dvorak would remember there used to be a tech news source called News Bites with the BYTES. You remember that?
I don't remember that, but I can imagine.
You'll hear from them.
Bring it on,
You'll
News
be
Bites.
hearing from them.
Bring it on.
No, I think they're gone.
One of my favorite like old school relics is a single CD-ROM that contains every piece of news that News Bites published in the entire history of the service.
Wow.
And I'm not even sure they filled the entire CD.
Probably
not. It's all nothing but text, so it's like a million articles, but it's like, okay, there you go.
News Bites was it in the early days. That was it. So that's good.
Bites.
Congratulations. Mediabytes.com.
We're already taking on clients, so it's in fact, we're almost full on clients. So
actually, I have bad news for you, Frederick. We don't have people from companies on the shows, and we don't have PR people on the show. So it's been nice having you, and thank you so much. But
it's marketing, Leo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what David Spark keeps saying. I'm not in PR. I'm in marketing.
It's different. It's different.
Well, he confused me. It worked. All right, let's take a break. We're going to come back. I'm going to do a little PR and marketing here for the folks at Citrix and their great product, GoToMeeting. I don't have to tell you about GoToMeeting. I hope I don't have to. Certainly, you've heard me talk about it. And my question for you is, if you haven't tried it yet, why not? GoToMeeting is a fantastic way to save time and money on business travel. You can have your meetings right from your own desk without flying anywhere. And I'm telling you, these are great meetings. Whether, you're working with an app developer in New Mexico. I'm not saying we are, but if you were, this is how we would do it. What are you laughing at? I can't keep a secret. Whether you're working with an app developer in New Mexico, a website developer in Poland, an agency in New York, a project manager in London, you just have these GoToMeetings, and it's a great way to get more done more effectively without the traveling. You could set the meetings up in advance or even while you're on the phone if you have something to show them. And anything on your computer screen can be on their computer screen, just like that, securely, quickly, easily. You get much of the same connectedness of being there without having to go there in person. For product reviews and demos, for sales presentations, for collaboration. That's mostly how we use it for training sessions. We even use them GoToMeeting on our shows. Ray Maxwell uses it to show screenshots, all right from his desk. Try it free for 30 days. Go to gotomeeting.com/MacBreak. gotomeeting.com/MacBreak. 30-day trial. No cost, no obligation. I think you'll like it. www.gotomeeting.com/MacBreak. We thank Citrix and the folks at GoToMeeting for supporting MacBreak Weekly. So not only did we get a date for WWDC last week, they sold out in just 8 days. So if you were planning on going, I guess it's too late.
8 days with the increased price, right?
Increased price and, interestingly, lack of focus on Macintosh. And it's, for instance, the awards are now just iPad and iPhone. They're no Mac. And I imagine most of the talk there will be iPhone 4 and iPad development. I have to say I'm interested in iPad development. I downloaded the SDK. I downloaded it. There's some great courses, Stanford.
I'm in there, yeah.
Yeah, you have that from iTunes U?
I've been watching those.
Yeah, they're great.
They're awesome, free.
Now, the only problem is they pull down the course material shortly after the class ends. Do you have a copy of the course material?
I do.
Can I get it from you?
You can.
I think there's a website somewhere that archives it.
They tell you that in the first class that they're going to pull them down.
Get it right now.
Yeah, yep.
And I didn't because I just downloaded the class. But that's a great way to learn.
It is. It's awesome. It's awesome. It lets me know that I don't want to be a developer, but it's helping me understand what they can build, Because that's what I wanted to learn, just what the capabilities of the platform were, so I could tell, because I'm having an app built, and I want to see how I want to know how to communicate with the developer, so that's why I'm watching.
I want to write a custom, I want to write an in-house app for us. And
don't you have one? I thought you had one.
We have a public app, the TwitPad. Actually, we have several, I think, coming as well. But TwitPad is a great app. $1 app that lets you watch Twit live. In fact, I encourage you, if you have an iPad or an iPhone, to search for Twit in the App Store.
I actually have that. I'm going to run it.
Yeah, it's great. Well, don't run it. You'll confuse yourself.
I'm like, hey, what
You'll be very
there?
confused. By the way, do you see Frederick's setup here? So he has a MacBook 15-inch in front of him, and he brought an easel, and he has his iPad on the easel. What do you have the extra? Is the extra screen? And look at that. It's a $4, $8 easel.
This is a $7 easel from Target.
Look at that.
From Target. It just sits there.
And he used rubber stoppers. I told him about your rubber stoppers.
I've expanded my repertoire. I use rubber stoppers for when I'm typing, and I use a $3 frame stand from AC Moore. That's my easel.
You win!
I see your $7.
I have a $1 cardboard box.
Wait a minute, that's not something to talk to him about.
I have a branch that actually holds.
Nice things. You can afford nice things.
Well, I still have my $45 EcoView case from Marvel.
I'm loving that case.
That's my favorite right now.
Yeah.
And I've done it. Oh, you can see I'm playing Farmville. Never mind. Actually, it was Godfinger. But this is, I love this. It's leather, but it's eco leather. No, I think that means no cows were
no animals harmed in the making of that.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
I think it just means that the animal checked off the donor box on his
That's
license. So you don't care about the environment. All you care about your own guilty feelings. So you're in the clear.
There you go. Use my hide. Yeah.
We should mention that the Stanford course is one of many courses Stanford and other universities, Yale, MIT. Put online on iTunes U. What a great resource that is. And they're free.
It's awesome. It's a whole different experience. I mean, you can watch it on your computer, of course. You can watch it on your iPhone, of course. But watching it on the iPad,
Exactly.
while you're like sitting there, it's different.
Well, you know what I did is I have it on my iPad here, and I have the I have Xcode running on my laptops.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
kind of one of my concerns was, well, how am I going to do both? It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's like having a little personal TV set.
Yeah, a little instructor in your pocket.
You could pause it and do all of that stuff. Anyway, so if you were going to go to WWDC, no, too late. It's
Forget about it.
sold out. They didn't say how many tickets were available. June 7th through the 11th, Moscone West, downtown San Francisco. We weren't planning on covering it, but now that it's sold out, you see, they don't let the press into the conference. But you can go to the keynote. So maybe if Apple will let me in. Maybe, Frederick, could you go for me? I don't think
Pull a string.
I don't think Apple's going to let me into any more of their events after the incident.
Wait a minute. What did you do,
You've
Leo?
seen the
Did I
pictures
miss
of me
this?
at the iPad announcement.
No, the last thing I saw of you online, you were crowd surfing at South by Southwest.
That was later, yeah. I had I was in. No, first of all, I signed nothing. They didn't tell me you couldn't broadcast. If they had told me, I wouldn't have. But nobody said anything. So Steve's talking, and we're trying to cover it. Were you there, Andy, covering it? I think you were part of the coverage, right?
I wasn't with you. I was sitting in the back, but
So I thought, well, what the heck? And I held up my laptop, turned it towards Steve.
okay, yeah. I saw that picture.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, apparently Steve did too, because I haven't heard from him in days.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not. I don't know.
You're on the blacklist.
No, I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying.
No fly list.
Haven't received any invitations lately. Let's put it that way.
So cold breeze running through
Apple
Petaluma.
files for a very interesting trademark. Patently Apple, by the way, is a great website to follow Apple's patent and trademark applications. Now, I have to say, and we really should give you this caveat before we talk about any of this stuff. I don't often talk about Apple's patent applications because, like most big companies, they patent everything. Doesn't mean they're going to make it.
Yep.
Trademark's a little different. You don't normally trademark something unless you really think you're going to use it. They just trademarked, and I'm so excited, iTunes Live.
What could that mean, though? Is that a concert series?
Well, remember
Is
they
that
bought
a
Lala.
on-demand?
They bought Lala.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think, Andy? You think that means they'll do an on-demand subscription service?
I think it could be just about anything. I think
shoot.
that's why I don't follow patent filing.
It says
either,
online
because-
retail store services in the field of entertainment. Because when you file for a trademark, you have to say what category it's in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a little bit better than other usual trademark and patent filings because they conceivably that they don't have to protect that name for vague future use, because if anybody tried to create a trademark with iTunes, the word iTunes in it, they own iTunes. Probably lose that almost immediately.
So you could put live after iTunes. That's not going to do anything for you. This, by the way, this is not a graphic created by Patently Apple. This is in the trademark filing. This iTunes with a stylized spray painted live.
Okay. So this is probably just a prank by Banksy. That screen grab's going to be worth $80,000.
I hope live will live. And it might be. By the way, they didn't trademark how you pronounce it. It could be iTunes Live. Did you ever think of that?
I don't think so.
Nothing to say.
It allows you to post your bucket list as an iMix.
Live. I will live.
Yes. Watch me live for these next 8 days. Starting with Counting Crows' top #3 hit.
As long as we're doing rumors, I might as well mention the rumor from Mac Daily News that the Mobile Me service may be free to all. It's $99 a year. I pay for it, but I know a lot of people look at it and say that's just too damn expensive.
I use it for address book context syncing. That's it.
Yeah, that's a lot for that.
Yeah, it is. But what's my
iDisk,
alternative?
you don't use iDisk? There's cheaper and better.
I'm using Dropbox instead of iDisk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Google does the sync stuff, frankly, better.
Exactly. Yeah.
According to Mac Daily News and their source, Mobile Me will become free of charge, quote, sooner than later, depends on certain facilities going operational. That, of course, probably means that server farm we've been talking about that Apple's building in North Carolina. In fact, aerial footage. I'd like to know which Apple rumor blog rented the plane, the helicopter, for the aerial footage. This is on YouTube, but I don't know who's. There it is in North Carolina. Well, it's almost done. Well, the traffic down at Apple's facility in North Carolina is a little slow and go. We've got a fender bender right on the north end of the facility. Look at that. In the middle of nowhere. Looks like it's in a swamp.
I think it might be Dick Cheney's residence.
So somebody said, and I think they're right, this live thing could be concerts, not streaming.
Yeah.
It could be concerts.
That's what I'm making, yeah.
Maybe you'd buy concerts online, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that would, the data center, that's the problem, is the data center mobile, maybe, but it could. There's so many other things, including streaming content, that would make more sense.
They could be using it for pay-per-view events. I know that there have been other streaming companies that have been making moves there where you can buy certain sports traditional live pay-per-view sports content that you get it on the cable channels via their streaming media service. So that's just one other thing that this could be. Just 1995, get Don King's latest little dance remix bit of theater.
Somewhere I have a Tech TV video of Don King plugging Tech TV, but while he's plugging it, he is holding up a sign that says the next fight that he's promoting. It's like
some walking banner ad.
That's the best we could do, is get him to plug Tech TV.
Yeah.
So do you credit the idea that Mobile Me might be free, Andy?
They might break out certain features of it and make it free, like Mobile Me syncing or Find My iPhone, because those are the ones that you don't have to explain to people. It makes the Mac and the iPhone into a much more compelling product.
I agree.
And there are other things that are harder to configure and harder to really to sell, and actually cost them a lot more money to support, like Mobile Me galleries and even the iDisk. I don't know what they would do to make it up to everybody who's just spent $100 to renew their Mobile Me account. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did things like syncing and Find My iPhone.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I guess we'll find out at some point. Andy wrote an article on the iPad and how it's holding up now after 1 month. We'll get to that. Talk a little bit about the iPad. Also, some more news about the iPhone. A lot more coming up. You're listening to MacBreak Weekly. We're glad you're here. Don't forget, you can watch the show. We do it live now. Before, we were dead. But now we're alive when we do the show. We do it every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, 1800 UTC at live.twit.tv. So come and watch. You're invited to join us. And, of course, you can get video now of the show. It's interesting. I was a little nervous about putting out video of the show, to be honest.
Why?
I thought it might cannibalize the audio listeners.
And what have you seen?
It did a little bit, but there is also an overall growth of, I think, 20 or 30%. We're up to almost 100,000.
By doing both.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I think it's, I just saw the numbers. I think we were getting 75,000 audio-only listeners per show. This is unique listeners per show. And I think it went down to 65,000, but then we also have another 30,000 video downloads, so it's a total of 95,000.
That's insane.
Isn't that great?
That's really good. Wow.
Kudos to you, those Andy Ihnatko's.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I was taking the moment to catch up on my Twitter feed, because sometimes people say interesting things to us on Twitter.
No, I shouldn't have bothered you. I should know a man who's twittering.
because Gadget Gav just said that the iTunes Live graphic has been used for a while, and they're live from Apple Store concerts.
Oh, fudge!
Search on iTunes Music Store, and it's there. I was just tabbing over to the iTunes Music Store to take a look for it. Bit again by those silly rumors. Yeah, I know. I'd heard that before for live events. Like, so there was a stage at Live Aid or a stage somewhere in the UK that was referring to it had the iTunes Music Festival. It was definitely triggering a long latent memory there.
Long latent.
Yeah, iTunes Live from Soho, iTunes Live from.
I thought you were stunned because I rhymed Ihnatko with something.
Oh, did you? Oh, do say it again.
He's like, what was that?
Say nothing rhymes with Ihnatko. All right. Let's take a little break and talk about...
Yeah, there it is. You see it, iTunes Live from Soho, Taylor Swift, Adele.
And it's that same logo?
Counting Crows, Kings of Leon, right. It's like stenciled on the upper corner of the album art.
Uh-huh.
So it's there everywhere.
Look at that.
Screw you, patently Apple.
Look at that journalistic
You see, just a little
diligence right there.
Yeah, see, I'm very diligent. All I got to do is Twitter at me.
Twitter is the key. It's all about
crowdsourcing journalism.
All about the Twitter, baby. All about the Twitter. All right,
the sausage is made, baby. Just
you don't want to know. Let's take a little break to hear a little bit about those great friends from the company.
Put all of your stuff on a
That
Drobo.
puts all your stuff on a Drobo. The Data Robotics Corporation would like to encourage you to check out the newest Drobos. The original Drobo, of course, with 4 disc bays. Great for home users to store videos, movies, your photo collection. The newer Drobo S with 5 disc bays with higher performance for creative professionals. The Drobo Pro for small businesses and creative teams. 8 disc bays to make a total of 16 TB, although I think you can go a lot larger. The newest Drobo Elite with 8 disc bays. And we have a Drobo, we have 2 Drobo FSs here in the studio now.
Yep.
I'm going to take one home. Get this. This is wild. The FS is an 8-bay Drobo, am I right?
The FS is 5 bays.
5 bays. But it has 2 processors. It runs Linux. Wait a minute.
It's pronounced Linux.
Hello, my name is Linus Torvalds, and I pronounce Linux. It runs Linux on the Drobo, and that way, so we can, this is wild. You hook it up to Ethernet. It's got 2 gigabit Ethernet ports on it. You hook it up. 1. So glad you're here. 1. Well, what's the one with 2? Is that the Elite?
That's the Elite, yep.
Elite has 2 gigabit Ethernet port. See, now when you say it, it sounds like that it's a 2 gigabit port. No, it's 2 ports, each a gigabit, right?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. See, if you weren't here, I'd have screwed this ad up something awful. Anyway, we got the file, the FS, which is like Drobo's, basically it's an NAS. And I'm going to have one at home, and I'm going to have one. What are you laughing at?
I'm not laughing. That was Andy.
Somebody's laughing. Somebody's snorting.
well, you see, perhaps you want to say it's and then an audible space NAS instead of saying it's an ass. But that's just me. I don't do the commercials. So
Cue the jingle singers, will you please?
All of your stuff on a Drobo.
Oh. Let's start that ad one more time. So
I'll say
anyway,
that's an ass. Woohoo!
it's an ass. It's an. Oh, forget it.
I'm interrupting commerce here. I should probably.
No, there's no commerce. Are you kidding? You think we're going to get paid for this ad? No freaking way at this point. This is what we call in the trade a bonus spot. So the Drobo FS, I'm going to have one here, one there, and they will the Drobo FS will back up all our stuff and then send it up to my house, so it's got offsite as well. It's really kind of cool. I don't understand how it works. It's
magic.
It's magic.
It's a kind of magic.
It's magic. And the Drobo Elite with 8 bays supports iSCSI. We are also using that. I think we're going to be an all Drobo house. If you want to get a deal on Drobo, go to drobo.com/MacBreak. We've got coupon codes, instant rebates from $75 to $500. Depending on, are you laughing at me again? Depending on what you buy. Data Robo. That's wrong. Data Robo. It's oh God. This ad's going down the tubes. DROBO. Drobo. There you go. Drobo.com/MacBreak. I believe that's correct.
That is correct.
Did you have anything to do with this division when you were working at Drobo?
With which division?
The ad division. Can you intercede?
I knew the guy that was. I know the guy that runs that.
Can you intercede a little bit? Just tell him I'm trying.
He's watching.
Oh dear, is that Mark?
Yes.
Oh, Mark. I love Mark.
Hi,
Mark's a
Mark.
very nice guy. Go to drobo.com/MacBreak, and then by the way, if you use the coupon code MacBreak Weekly, all caps, for those $75 to $500 rebates on the populated Drobos. I'm blown away by what you guys have done. Not you guys anymore.
Yeah,
You know, it's funny.
those guys.
The cleaning lady. Okay, little Drobo story. I have the original Drobo at home. That's what I use to back up my Macs. And it's got that great magnetic front.
Yeah,
which is so cool. It makes it, you just pull it right off, put them, repopulate. If you upgrade, put another drive in or whatever. And I think the cleaning lady knocked it off, and I'm sure she thought she broke it. Because it was carefully put aside. I'm not going to try. It was like, I'm not going to try to fix this. I don't know what happened. Yeah. So I have to explain to her, no, it's magnetic. You probably knocked it off, but that just goes right back on. I love the Drobo. You're going to too. Drobo.com/MacBreak. MacBreak. Do you think if I play 2 different jingles, they'll like me more?
They will.
Yeah.
They will.
This is for you, Mark Fuccio.
Thank you very much, everybody.
I love, when I play the jingles, I feel like we're doing old-time radio. That's what I like about that. I think I lapsed into Wally Ballou for a moment there.
Well, Wally Blue here, broadcasting from the...
I want jingles for TWIP.
From historic Bath Bay, Maine, site of the world-famous submarine races.
Exactly. You must be a fan.
Oh, huge fan. I can't tell you how happy I was just a few weeks ago where there was an interview in a piece in the New York Times with Bob Elliott, his son Chris Elliott.
I saw that. Yeah.
And his granddaughter, who's a cast member on Saturday Night Live, because when Bob Elliott retired, he retired. And also, he wasn't it's not like he was Bob Hope or something where he keeps popping up for benefits or something. So it was great to know that he was 80, he's 85, 86. It was great just to know that he was still around.
It was a picture of them in their fishing cabin. It was just so cool. It was so cool, and you could see why Chris Elliott. What's his daughter's name? I didn't know she was in Saturday Night Live.
That's why I don't know her name.
Is it Missy Elliott? No.
No. Actually, she often gets confused with her partner left eye. Yes, Missy Misdemeanor.
Missy Misdemeanor.
There you go.
Did you see Conan's video at Google? Apparently, it was very good. I did not see it.
No.
Yeah, apparently he was just...
Did you touring the place, or did you do a little Google Talk or something?
He gave it Google Talk.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. I guess I could just play it.
Have you done that yet?
We started, YouTube has an automatic, I think there's an automatic thing that goes through videos and looks for copyright violations because now a number of our videos have been flagged. And there was one video where I replayed and by the way, we're a news show, so there's fair use, if we're using it for news coverage, there's fair use for this stuff. And I showed a clip from a BBC thing that was about, I can't remember what it was, but it was something technical, and it was appropriate. It was, it's part of our news coverage, just as it's, and I say that as a preface to this. Conan O'Brien at Google, right from YouTube, as a matter of fact. He enters with a bagpipe. Oh, the pipers, it's on. I'd like to enter the show with a bagpipe.
Leo, when are you going up there to do your...
They've never invited me. Now that Colleen works for Google, maybe I'll get an invite.
There you go.
Okay, this is going on a little bit long.
Yeah.
Okay. There he is. Anyway, you know what's nice? We don't actually have to watch it. We could just read the captions.
Yeah, but sometimes those captions are...
I think these were hand done.
Think so?
Yeah, because I don't think the captioner would get Vic Gunter
Inside
right.
Google called a dory. It basically allows a dory. It's an internal name. You don't need to know what it is, but it allows it allows
Most condescending man I've ever met.
Hey,
Don't you worry about it. You just relax and let the search engine do the work.
hey, we got 45 minutes. We're just getting started. Just wait.
I've got nowhere else to go.
That's right.
I'm here for the day. Hey, I like this. Look at that. This looks like the club in Purple Rain. I like everybody. Are you all dancing when Morris Day and the Time come out? You kids are young. You'll figure it out soon.
So, Googlers or G-men
and
ladies submitted a bunch of questions.
Yes,
it's a very democratic.
It's actually a great appearance.
I gotta watch that.
Yeah, it's really, really funny, and I can't remember why that came up. Why did I mention Conan O'Brien? Google?
I don't know.
I have no idea. Let's move on.
You're talking about taking down copyrighted videos off of YouTube?
No, I did that before I played the video so that YouTube wouldn't give me a hard time for playing the video of Conan O'Brien at Google.
Ah.
But I doubt very much that indemnified me in any way whatsoever. New MacBook Air, what do you think? You know why they did it? You know why they're doing a new MacBook Air? Because I just bought a 15-inch. And I wanted an Air.
Awesome.
Why do you need an Air?
Because I like how light it is. But now that I have the iPad, I don't really
there's
need
your
an
Air right there. It's lighter than Air.
Do you think they will update the Air given that they've got the iPad now?
I don't know. I mean, I know people with the Air that haven't cracked it open in a while because they have an iPad.
This is from Macworld Magazine. They're quoting their source, a well-placed source familiar with Apple inventory levels and product refreshes. Same person who correctly predicted the MacBook Pro updates a week before they arrived. He talked to Australian Macworld after finding a new product number in the Apple database. MC516LL/AK87 Better BTR-USA. Ha ha! There must be a.
I stand corrected.
Must be a MacBook Air.
Scared me with that.
I don't know.
I was having a conversation with somebody last week about the Air, because we're sort of going back and forth about why did they even bother making this, apart from making a really tiny notebook, given that it has such problems in delivering performance over a long haul, unless you've got it, sitting on top of a bag of ice to keep it so cool that it will run as true speed, given that it's so expensive. And one of the ideas we'd come up with was that this was not only designed to be a viable product in and of itself, but also to test all kinds of techniques for building the next generation of MacBooks. The idea of unibody Macs with a sealed-in battery, sealed-in everything, to make sure they knew how to actually design these sort of things without affecting the bread and butter parts of the line. I think that obviously a refresh of the Air has to, if it doesn't come out soon, then we pretty much know that Apple, this is going to be another one of their little hobbies, isn't it?
Right.
Where that's right. The Air is more of a hobby than
that's a good
than
point.
a viable product.
Now, this tipster said it would come out today. By now, maybe. I don't know. And it's not out yet as we record.
Again, I stand corrected.
Are you the tipster? Are you?
I think hobby is the new beta.
Do you have intimate connections to the Apple inventory levels and product refreshes? Andy,
unless you're talking about Debbie, the dispatcher at the Walpole, Massachusetts Apple Retail Depot. No.
So we got sidelined by a Skypeosaurus issue. Yeah, she'll tell you. But do you have thoughts about 1 month in on the Apple iPad?
Yeah. It's a couple of different things. Number one, a lot of practical issues that really don't come up until you've used it for about a month. Also, I had the minor handicap of when I wrote my main review, it was based on almost a week and a half of use of the iPad because I had it early, but it also meant that it was almost entirely done inside because I couldn't use it in public. Right. And so one thing that I really think I had to correct was the difference. I had to really sort of roll back my opinions of the screen a little bit, where in the original review I said that it was a glossy screen and that's a problem in some circumstances, but not really a deal breaker. Now that I've been able to take it out for 30 days, I know that, that's kind of a problem because now there's so many circumstances under which it's just not even useful due to the glare. There are two in particular. One, I should say that day one of the cruise, there were 4 of us around a table. All 4 of us had iPads. 3 of us had brought along, in addition to the iPad, our Kindles and our Sony readers, because we knew that we want to read books outside and on the beach, and that was not going to be happening on an iPad. Yeah. That's one area which you definitely need an e-ink display. But the second thing came just a couple of days before I left, when my iPad 3G, this is the one that I actually ordered back in March, arrived. And I really couldn't resist turning on the GPS and taking it out for a drive. I jury-rigged like a car mount for it with Velcro and a couple of clamps and some duct tape. And I have a beta of an unreleased GPS car navigator for the iPad. And it was like 4 in the afternoon, maybe 5 in the afternoon. I was driving around with it, and within 10 or 15 minutes, I sort of reached over and turned it off because there are just too many circumstances in which I would want to glance over to take a look to see what's the next turn coming up, and the glare off it was just so bad it was just unreadable. I would have to be sort of leaning over and just sort of looking really carefully to get past that. Obviously, at night it worked awesome. Especially when you have heads-up display mode on an iPhone app to scale up to 2x, the kind where it produces a mirror image of your navigation information. They just simply drop it inside the dashboard. It reflects backwards up into your windshield, and so you get this tactical animated heads-up display that's sort of floating over the hood of your car. That works great. But if you would want to use an iPad as a car navigator, as one of those center console computers, unless you're going to install it inside a hood or make some sort of arrangement for that, that's just not going to work. So that's one thing that I really wanted to sort of roll back. Also, after 30, this is something that I sort of predicted, that it was going to take a good while for the real muscular, wonderful apps to be released for the iPad. It's not as though there aren't any good apps out there. There are a lot of really great apps out there, but after a month, I'm a little bit surprised that there aren't more really great apps available for the iPad. It's not a case where we're seeing more and more wonderful apps coming out each and every day. I keep looking, and I don't see many good productivity apps that were not available the first week. Not a whole lot of good utilities that were not out the first week. It's not because the iPad is failing as a development environment. It just goes to show that it takes a certain number of months for a really ambitious application to be finished. And most of these developers didn't get their hands on an iPad until April 3rd when everyone else did. One thing that I'm really, really looking forward to is the first company that makes a really good word processor to compete with Pages. I'm sure that I don't have any specific knowledge, but I'm looking forward to when the Docs2Go people, these folks who've been doing mobile word process, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office apps just for years and years and years. They have not only experience on how to deal with Microsoft Office apps without any need for translation, but they also have a really good idea of how people use mobile editions of Office apps. So that's going to be, I think, that's going to be the word processor that everyone's going to want to have, the one that imports all of your style sheets, doesn't require any sort of changes whatsoever. You can simply save it to Google Docs, or save it to Box.net, or save it to your Dropbox, and we'll simply open it natively, and it's just as though you'd slipped a disk into the side of the thing. So I really think it's still going to be August, maybe September, before we can really evaluate the iPad full stop as the device that it's meant to be, because it's going to take that long for all the really great apps to finally drop.
Yeah.
Estimated that Apple will make $40 million on the iWork suite.
Wow.
In the first year. Not a surprise. I mean, everybody's buying it, right?
I wonder what how does that compare to the revenue it drove from the actual desktop apps?
Oh, that's interesting, huh?
Yeah. I wonder if it's...
I mean, they're not charging as much.
What those things made, I wonder.
Yeah.
That is kind of free money at this point, because at this point, the last time I checked for Office style apps, there's Office Squared for the iPad, which really isn't. It's okay, but it really duplicates the efforts of Pages. It doesn't go beyond Pages in any meaningful way, as far as I can tell. So it's the set of apps that everybody's going to want to have, because that's what takes the iPad and turns it from a media consumption device into a credible alternative to taking your notebook with you wherever you go.
Yeah,
so
this is that missing piece, Andy. Though, I'm an avid Dropbox user, and I love all my files in there and being able to access them anywhere. And what I was hoping for when I got my iPad was to be able to open a Keynote document from my presentations folder in my Dropbox, edit it, present it, do whatever, and save it back to my Dropbox and go back to my Mac and continue. But that connection isn't there yet. So that whole importing, exporting thing has me a little bit, I think kerfluffled.
It's not something that is prevented by the iPad in any way. That capability is definitely possible with the development kit. Also, given that Dropbox just last week opened up a set of open access APIs, just like the sort of things available on Box.net, it means that if someone wanted to allow you to simply have a standard open save dialog box, it simply opens up your Dropbox directory, and that will be possible. I believe that they just either announced it or it just went live a week or two ago. It's a very, very recent development. But
yeah, I have that. I know I can now open files directly from my Dropbox, but it essentially imports them.
Well, it's sandboxed, and then you have to say, and then you'd have to the application that could then open it, say Pages, would have to then say, I can read this. Yep. And then it would show up, or you'd email it to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's something that could be supported if a developer wanted to have that sort of Command O to open a file, brings up your list of everything in your Dropbox, select the one you want, open it, and then save it back. That's something that
it's just out of reach.
It can be done, but and you can bet that Pages will not do it.
I'm saying that the capability is there in the operating system. There's nothing physically preventing the developer from incorporating that feature.
Yeah,
wonderful.
And that will be a killer app when that happens. That's that. Yeah. Now the good news is, and we can add another saying to the Steve Jobs instant email design program. The good news is, according to an email from Steve Jobs, and again, you can never prove that these really came from Steve Jobs. It could be faked. But according to an email that purports to be from Steve Jobs, Apple will, well, it doesn't even say Apple. Printing is coming soon.
That's the other piece, yes.
Yeah, and not being able to print is huge.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, it's either huge or you just don't care about it. I mean, I only print things when I need to mail things. I rarely need to mail things. But
well, it's that same workaround, right? That you have to mail it and then you have to put or subsync it.
But I mean, there are people who want it, and it's good that there's going to be something like that available if this is actually true.
That's true.
I think it's more interesting that now we are at the point where someone needs to come up with Steve Jobs reply email refrigerator poetry magnets.
I know,
just where it's like, "Yup, coming.
Yeah,
not a problem."
So the email to Steve sent May 7th. Dear Steve, why no printing on the iPad? What gives? Response from Steve literally 15 minutes later. It will come.
What do you need to print from your iPad, Leo?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you where it comes up. It doesn't come up for me so much, but for Jennifer. I want to move Jennifer from her notebook, which she really has a hard time using. She just doesn't understand the file system. It doesn't make sense to her, to an iPad for email. Frequently, she'll get an email with an attachment, a carpool assignment sheet or something like that. She wants to print.
Okay.
Does not. I can't, she's tethered to the notebook. She has to go back to the notebook to print it, and that's not good.
Well, didn't Google announce
I would like to see the iPad replace computers for a class of users.
Didn't Google announce universal printing or something?
Yeah.
What was that? Can the iPad take advantage of that?
There are a bunch of different solutions for that. Even individual apps like Goodreader and the other document viewer and document maintainer apps have printing features that work or don't work.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the fact that whether I want printing or not, or whether it makes sense for the iPad or not, that's a feature that a lot of people are going to want and expect. So if there's a way that Apple can do it, then there's really very little downside. So long as they don't have to get into the problem of having to open up the iPad operating system to printer drivers, where now they have to let Canon and Epson and HP, they have to trust those guys to create printer drivers that cause the iPad not to crash and not to spit pea soup out their speaker point.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
I think it would be more like a network printing app that you just simply install on your Mac or install on your PC, or it'll just simply be able to find network printers via Bonjour and reach it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are apps, and I just have been too scared to buy them, but there are apps out there that, say, oh, this will work with a network printer. But then I read the reviews, and everybody goes, well,
yeah, exactly. I'm very disappointed with those two. Air sharing Goodreader, and these other apps, they're really, really important apps. I think that Apple should have included a virtual. I think there's another thing that put in that column, that you really do need an app that does nothing but let you drop arbitrary documents onto the thing, either mount it as WebDAV or just. I don't care that I don't have an app for reading. I don't have an app for editing Word documents. I don't have an app for editing this. I just want to be able to take this document and have it with me as research, as reference. Have this PDF of my travel documents just as something I can refer back to, so that I don't need to have access to the internet to get this information. And my two favorites are Air Sharing HD and Goodreader, but neither one of them works really, really flawlessly. Both of them, for instance, will support connecting to your Box.net or other WebDAV servers, but I can't get either one of them to work 100% reliably.
Yeah.
Goodreader and some others, Air Sharing and some others also support printing. Once again, I'm not at that stage where I can count on being able to print from this application. On some circumstances it'll work, some circumstances it won't work, and that's just terribly frustrating. So I think it's going to. I did talk. I won't say to whom, but I've been talking to developers of some of these apps, and they acknowledge that they have to have this app. They had to have this app available as soon as possible. They acknowledge it doesn't really work properly, and they consider it a work in progress. And it's like, okay, well that's nice. That'd be nice to put in the description. A work in progress. Good luck with this.
Yeah, those are the two big pieces, right? The file system and printing.
Well, and at the same time, that's why I don't want Jennifer to have to use a notebook, because I don't want her to see a file system. But there needs to be some way for her to do some of this stuff.
That's a superlative thing, like the thing that you were talking about, Frederick. The ability to simply just dump all these documents via USB or dump them via Wi-Fi, nominally just so you can view them, but then say, you know what, I actually want to edit this document, and simply have that simple reader hand it off to Pages or hand it off to Docs2Go or Office Squared.
Yes.
That is supported in the operating system. All that has to happen is for the developer to want to do that.
So it's just a matter of time then, right?
Just a matter of time, and hopefully everybody accepting that this is a good idea. If I'm a little bit frustrated sometimes, no matter what the operating system is, no matter what the device is, to know that this thing is possible, but nobody is doing it, as though no one wants to do this. Well, I want to do this. I'll give you. Here's $80. Do it for me.
I know. Here, Andy. Here's a feature request. What about your iPad and or iPhone operating like your Apple TV does in terms of syncing, so that I could say, hey, here's an iPad that's attached to my network, and I want to sync these particular playlists and files down to that whenever it appears on the network. So I don't have to go back up and sync every time I want to get the latest podcasts and all that. That's not difficult to do, do you think?
I think that's more of a philosophical thing, because I mean, we've all been asking for that for the iPhone since since forever,
since time began.
Between that and the desktop. Apple's there are more applications for the iPad that support wireless syncing or wireless communication. So you would think that there'd be a more aggressive attempt to make this sort of thing work. But this is exactly the sort of thing that I think Apple would just simply not approve for the App Store. So I think a lot of it is just simple fear that somebody does not want to spend a couple of months developing this, with knowing that there is at least a 30% chance in someone's mind that Apple simply won't allow you to sell it.
Yeah.
So we add, it will come to the Steve Jobs automatic email generator. We'll also add check your facts, I think is one. Apple announced.
Steve Jobs sent me a fax. I wish I had
Facts. Steve, Apple announced that the iPad will be coming out internationally in Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Japan, Switzerland, and the UK at the end of the month, Friday, May 28th. Pre-orders are now open. And as some have pointed out, a little more expensive. Somebody sent Steve an email saying, hey, how come it costs so much more in Great Britain? And what did Steve say? Something like, check your facts, or learn something, dude. He said, your country requires VAT taxes to be included in the price. So if you take that out, it's only $40 more.
I got a really passive aggressive email from someone in the UK saying that we're the 3Gs. We just placed my order for the iPad 3G here in the UK, and I get to choose between 3 different wireless providers. How's that revolution working out for you?
Yeah. So what do you think about Google announcing that it's going to do an ebook store? And in fact, now the latest is, and I had poo-pooed it until I heard the latest, which is that almost all of the publishers have agreed to do it. And Google has announced we will have 2 million books plus another 2 million open free books, public domain books. So for a total of 4 million in our bookstore when we launch, that's going right after Apple and Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The question is, can they deliver a really good user experience for those books, though, for that storefront? Because Amazon has produced an online storefront that's easy to use and very discoverable. The iBook store is a lot more fun to use, and it's still just as practical.
But it's disappointing because there's so few books in the iBook store.
Yeah.
But even when I've known the title of a book that I know that Google Books has as an EPUB available for free download, I have to take 2 or 3 shots at it before I come up with a search term that will reveal not the one magazine article from 1851 that this same guy wrote, but the entire autobiography he published in 1891. I don't know why. If you just do a simple author search, it will not give you a list of every single book available from this author. So that's the only place where Google is vulnerable. They cannot. It's at some points I wonder if they even care about the user experience.
That's fixable though, right? That's fixable. And like me, for example, I'm always going to go with the path of least resistance. So if my brain says it's easier to get it from the iBook store or Amazon,
it's not been
whatever,
my experience, because it is a separate app. I've been buying books on both the iBook store when I can find them, and on the Kindle. And of course, you launch the Kindle application, it pulls up Safari when you want to shop.
Right.
But I don't find it difficult. I buy it. It downloads right into my Kindle software.
Yeah. No, I'm saying on the Google side. So if Google,
I think, but the point being that a third party can make a credible experience. I don't think Apple has done such a good job with the iBook store that they have a lock.
Yeah.
And if the prices are aggressive, I don't understand how Google's doing it, because I would have thought that these mainstream publishers like Random House would want copy protection. I don't know. Is Google going to support it?
And also there's a question about whether all 4 million of those, all the millions of titles that they have simply indexed for searching will also be available for purchase.
Well, this is what the story is, that 2 million are new books from in-print books from publishers who are making a deal, and then another 2 million are in that public domain catalog, which is now that's a very good question. This has to do with that book deal settlement, whether still copyrighted books that are orphaned, the so-called orphan works, where nobody claims ownership, even though the copyright is technically still in force, whether those will be available. Though, I think those are a little bit iffy, just because the court hasn't really ruled on this Google book deal yet.
Yeah. I think the other piece of that, I'm sorry, Andy, the other piece of that is the format, right? What format are these books in?
Well, I would hope EPUB.
But if they're EPUB, then that, for me, that sort of knocks out a big chunk of what I'm interested in reading.
Why is that?
Photography books and techniques and all this stuff that need graphical illustrations. And
so EPUB does not support graphics.
No, it supports graphics, but it doesn't support formatting or proper formatting. So you're not going to look at like one of these beautiful Derek Story books with an illustration and captions and all that stuff in there. It's just basically, it's like HTML1 in some ways.
Yeah.
So,
Really? Because I've seen some Sony Reader books that are published in EPUB that's been secured with Adobe Digital Editions that has some pretty good formatting.
Really? I haven't seen those yet. I need to see them. The ones I've seen have been nothing like Alice in Wonderland.
Well, that's different. And by the way, those books are selling like crazy.
Yeah.
But that's something else.
There's a difference between a book like Alice in Wonderland that requires active code to be running to get some of those cool animations and tools working. But then there's, in terms of creating a static book that just has pretty formatting in it, if you have a good tool like Adobe InDesign, you can. My understanding is that you can pretty much make the pages look within certain limits as good as you want them to. I've seen box shading, I've seen borders, I've seen differences in type styles, differences in sizes, I've seen captions below pictures.
But it's designed to reflow though, depending on the device that's viewing it, right? So that's going to knock out some of that formatting. Like for example, your books, Andy, as an author, would you be okay with just sort of put this image here and wrap my text however you see fit around it? Or are you more stringent and I want, this image needs to be on the page with these 2 paragraphs only, because if it's not formatted that way, then my story sort of breaks?
Well, I'm probably a bad example because the sort of stuff that I would put in EPUB is stuff that reflows pretty easily.
Yeah.
Where you have separate. I know that I can do things like put separate images, make sure there's a page break before a specific image or a specific section, so I can control that. If there's a table that I really want to get all of its attention, all of its own, not only can I format it very nicely as a table, but I can also make sure that it appears at the top of a page. I'm not an EPUB ninja by any stretch. I'm just working my way from the very, very bottom of hand coding EPUB to the really interesting public domain and freeware EPUB tools, and now I'm starting to mess around with InDesign to try to see what the top of this sort of design process is like. But it's I know that you have a lot more flexibility, it would appear, than Kindle editions. I've been talking to people who design books for Kindle for commercial publishers, and they say they constantly are banging their heads against the wall because there's a way that something is formatted in the printed book that they just have no way of reproducing in the Kindle edition, that they had a quick solution for the EPUB edition, but for creating the Kindle they had to talk to the publisher and the original book designer again and the author and saying, this is not possible. What do you want me to do? Here are 3 alternatives of what is capable using the toolkit that's available for the Kindle edition app.
For the Mobi format.
Does this mean PDF is dead? Because we haven't used the acronym PDF at all.
Not at all. Yeah, I think for books, ebooks is going to be the way forward, and I think that publishers are jumping at this. I think the big story on this is that the Google, they're going to call it Google Editions, will not have copy protection. So I think the same thing is about to happen in publishing that happened in the music industry in the last year, which is copy protection went by the wayside. I think that may even be more important than these formatting issues or anything. I mean, that's really huge. Google says a book you buy in Google Editions will run on anything with a browser.
Wow.
Maybe HTML5 support. I don't know. Or there's a plugin for it. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that.
That's crazy.
But this is something that when was this was announced, like last week or something?
Yeah, it's brand new.
Yeah, because unfortunately I'm still catching up on news I missed while I was on board the ship. But I've done like the level 1 looking at this. I haven't done the level 2 where I've tried to figure out, okay, Google, what do you mean by it'll be readable by anybody with a browser? Do you mean that anybody with a browser who is signed in and verified their identity with a Google account, or is it I can simply take this file, put it on a keychain drive, take it from machine to machine to machine, browser to browser to browser, have no connection to the internet whatsoever to validate who I am or support?
Well, that's what I wonder. They say there'll be no DRM.
Okay. Then that's about as explicit as they can make it. All I know is that I've talked to publishers who are still very, very iffy, not only about how they're going to be supporting DRM or not supporting DRM, but also how they're going to be pricing these titles and how they're going to have the relationship between the publisher and the author these days. So if it is just as clear as it's been stated, then this is a really groundbreaking sort of event, and I think it would be a watershed moment in electronic publishing.
Yeah.
Which is why I want to make sure that I really look into this before I say, "Hooray, the witch is dead! The witch is dead."
You know, I think that I'm digging back through to the original stories, trying to find the exact quote from Chris DePalma, who is the Google guy who made this announcement. And if I can find the original story, because none of these have a direct quote from him, and it may be there's a little weaseling going on.
Little word
from
play.
PC Magazine, the company's manager for strategic partner development, Chris Palma, told a crowd in New York, this was at a big book event, that the store was set to launch in June or July of this year. Google is set to tie the service to its book search engine. According to Palma, and I wish this were a direct quote, books purchased through the service will be viewable through web browsers. So you're right, Andy, that isn't exactly DRM free. It could very well be a plugin. Maybe it's these secondary sources that are inferring DRM free, and that's the thing I'm not clear about. Here's a Wall Street Journal article.
Yeah, I'm reading that now myself.
Yeah.
Because even Kindle has access to only about 500,000 titles.
Yeah, 4 million is significant. 2 million proprietary is significant.
Again, I'm not saying I doubt any of this. I'm saying that I need to know exactly how they managed to get 4 times. If you're just talking about books that are in copyright, how did they get 4 times the amount of titles that are available via Amazon? Given that Amazon was already so eager to master this market that they're willing to lose money on every title.
Well, but I think a lot of publishers hate Amazon's agency model. You know, where Amazon sets the price, and they much prefer Apple's model. But maybe they don't want to go down the road that the record labels went, giving Apple all of that power. So it could be that they see Google as a savior in this case.
Yeah, it's possible. One of the smart things that the publishing industry has already done is learning by the negative examples set by the record industry, because they spent so much time trying to redefine how music is purchased and controlled to make sure that they get as every penny and every right they can from the purchaser, that they never got a market going, and they got so desperate that they had to hand over their entire industry to Apple.
Right. Yeah.
And the book publishers are smart enough to know that we never want to cause that to happen. If anybody comes to us with a great way that we can sell our books, so long as we don't have to sell them exclusively through this one publisher, we are all in. So
the latest on this, which came out yesterday, was that according to Erictrick, which I don't know what that is, ERICTRIC, reported that Google's very own ebook store, Google Editions, is expected to launch in early summer. Preliminary reports stated the store could launch with as many as 500,000 titles. However, if a report by Japan Today is to be believed, the number of titles could be much larger. According to Japan Today, more than 25,000 publishers, which accounts for almost all publishers in the U.S., are backing the upcoming Google Editions bookstore. That's, I mean, if that's, again, it's a lot of ifs and hedge words here. And Erictrick, maybe his name is Eric Trick. I'm not going to make the joke.
Don't do it.
I'm not going there.
Don't do it.
I think you just say
Resist.
I would never do that, Andy-san. You apparently confused me with someone else. So a couple more stories, then we're going to get to our picks of the week. First of all, a couple of actually big stories. Where were they? I had them. I said I don't want to miss this story. Steam comes out tomorrow for the Mac. The open beta, the open public beta, begins tomorrow, May 12th. That's huge because it puts the Mac, and I've talked about this a couple of times before, on a equal footing with the PC for gaming. Now, initially, it's going to have Portal 2 and Team Fortress, 2 very popular. Portal 1 is very popular. Portal 2, I can't wait. And Team Fortress, neither of which are particularly demanding, but apparently, according to Steam, Apple's platform is going to be a Tier 1 platform for them. That means they're going to release games at the same time for both Windows and OS X, and that your Steam account will be good on all platforms, maybe even on Linux. There's rumors there might even be a Linux platform for this. So that's really good news for gamers on the Macintosh, and really for anybody on the Mac, because that was really one big lapse on the Mac side. Oh, I love this story, the Flash crashing twice. You go ahead and you zing your ex-employers. Why don't you there, Frederick?
I'm not going to zing
them. Come on, you know you want to.
No, Flash is great.
So this is a demo of Flash, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what was this at? This was at that conference, right? The
Flash Camp Seattle.
Flash Camp Seattle. Apparently, one of the not uppity. I didn't mean uppity.
Yeah, you did.
One of the higher
slipped
ups.
right out there.
Damn you, Freud. One of the
Seattle. Let's see. A Flash platform evangelist Ryan Stewart demoing the new Flash Player 10.1, which plays on, of course, the Nexus 1. It's an Android. Look, you can play Flash on phones. We've got it on the Nexus 1. It crashes.
Yeah, twice.
He pulled up a site called EcoZoo, and this seemingly pretty intense example of Flash development, full of 3D rendering, rich interactions, and cute little characters. Then, he pulled it up on the computer, then he pulls it up on his Nexus 1. The site's progress bar fills in. The 3D world appears for a few seconds before the browser crashes.
Poof.
Ryan says, whoops, well, it's beta, and this is an intense example. Let's try it again. There was his mistake.
And then someone from the audience said, Hulu. and he said no.
He said, no, Hulu doesn't work. And then he wrapped up the demo saying, if you want to try more sites, you'll find me later. I'll be playing with my Nexus 1 out by the
I'll
garbage.
be walking down the street with all my office stuff in a box. But you got to hand it to Adobe. They promised that they would replicate the entire Flash experience on the desktop and mobile, and damn if they didn't.
Wow. I got nothing to say about that.
They have posted a video that purports to show EcoZoo working on a Nexus 1.
So you can't play the game, but you can watch that video.
Yeah.
Unless it's been posted on Hulu, in which case you could.
No, you couldn't watch that. No. HTML5 is coming, though, to CBS, which is great news. ABC has an iPad app. CBS says, no, we're going to do a website, but we're going to make sure that all of our video going forward will be HTML5 so you can play it on the iPad. Yep. I think the iPad's turning into a personal TV, among other things. And finally, a 0-day flaw in Safari. I want to report these so people don't think we are somehow glossing over security flaws in Apple's stuff. Apple's Safari browser contains a critical unpatched bug on Windows. What? Sorry. I'm sorry.
What you talking about, Leo?
It's not on the Mac. It's just on Windows. It can be used to exploit Safari 405 on Windows and break into a Windows system. Not known. All right, I'll be fair. Whether the vulnerability also exists on Mac, but apparently maybe not. It's kind of sad. I had to do it. I'm sorry. I just had to do it on Windows. I think that's it. Do we want to get our picks? Should we do our picks? Let me, before we do the picks, mention our friends at Audible, but I'll give you one last chance. Any stories, Frederick, that we have left out?
One, I don't know if you talked about this one, but Scribd. You know the guys at Scribd?
Yeah, SCRIB''D.
Yeah, they do the online document sharing, and so you can.
And they're going to do this herd thing, right?
They've recently announced, I think a couple days ago, that they are switching over to HTML5.
Wow.
Yeah, so you'll be able to share your Scribd documents on any device that supports HTML5
via the browser.
Via the browser. Yep. Yep. They've got a nice little presentation up there too that sort of runs through what their decision process was for switching from Flash to HTML5. So it's interesting.
I guess it would behoove me to mention the NPD report that the iPhone is now in third place, at least in the first quarter of 2010, in the smartphone market. Number 1, BlackBerry. Number 2, Android for the first quarter of 2010. Apple poo-poos it. Apple says, we're number 1. We're number 1. I think if it isn't selling as well in the first quarter, it's probably because it's saturated, right? Mm-hmm. Apple's spin is, forget the U.S. The iPhone outsells Android everywhere in the world. If you add it all up, then that would actually support the notion that it's saturated in the U.S. or that people hate AT&T, but it sells just fine elsewhere.
Mm. The other difficulty is that, remember, that I really think that Android has only started being for sale for the past 6 months,
right?
Because now that 2.0 operating systems is out there, now that there's a variety of really great handsets out there, Android is it really found the gas pedal over the last 6 months.
I think that's the key. I mean, if you look at this graph from NPD, RIM is slowing down. It was a huge dominant force, but it's slowing down. OS 10 peaked in Q3 2009, has gone down a little bit, it's flattened out now. Mm-hmm. But that green line, that's the Android, and it's just taken off since the Nexus 1, the Incredible, the Droid. I think the Droid is probably where you begin this. Yeah.
And you start off with one company having a huge ad campaign to make sure that everybody, even if they had no interest in in an Android phone, at least knew that there was another alternative to the iPhone out there. Yeah. So that was the rising tide that really floated everybody out there.
Yeah. Are we going to see Palm?
I think. OS. By the way, did you notice that black line? It shows black for the graph. That black line in the graph. That is Palm's WebOS.
Yeah. But it's going to come back. No, the yellow line, isn't it?
No,
it is the black line.
This is one down here at the bottom.
Are we going to see that come back because of HP?
It's actually below other now.
Insignificant.
I think we will.
Error.
I think if HP puts its mighty might, its marketing power and its money behind WebOS and makes it, I think it's going to make a slate device. I don't know about the phone stuff. HP is in the smartphone business with the iPad, but not much.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a tablet. Right. HP's going to do a tablet. That's what I think. The slate will be reinvented, re-engineered. They'll take Atom out because you can't run WebOS on a Atom processor. It needs an ARM processor. I think that'd be interesting.
Interesting.
Business Week says Steve Jobs healthy. Not much to report on that. He's. They quote Guy Kawasaki. People like Steve Jobs have a different operating system from you and me. That's what makes him different. Except for the fact that he's lost a lot of weight, says Tim Beharon. He's the Steve Jobs of old. That I think we'd agree on. He's got the fire in the belly. He's definitely doing the job. Wozniak says Jobs is very busy, involved in a lot of work. Woz says the CEO has made a good recovery. And the doctor who conducted the liver transplant says 91% of his patients have a healthy liver 1 year after the operation. So the success rate is very good. And, I figure Adobe's probably thinking Steve's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's weakened. Mm-hmm. Let's get our Audible pick of the week in, and then your software picks of the week. Did you remember that we do that, Frederick? I should have probably warned you, and I
did remember
neglect
that.
To.
Mine isn't software, though.
Okay, hardware's good, too. Mm-hmm. Hardware's good, too, but I do want to remind everybody to go to audible.com/MacBreak to get your free book. Audible is the place we talk about, and I hope you've been listening, and I hope you've tried it. And if you haven't, please do yourself a favor. 75,000 books now. Actually, not just books, performances, radio shows, lectures, mostly books, though, and every category. Business, classics, education, fiction, history, kids, mysteries and thrillers, romance, science and technology, sci-fi and fantasy, even teen novels. It's a great way to get your teen reading. I turned Henry on to Demon, and I'll get a review from him. Andy Ihnatko is a big Audible listener. We know that because he's always got great recommendations. In fact, I look forward every week to Andy's recommendation to know what I should get next on audible.com.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I don't know if this was influenced by last week's cruise, but this week's pick for me is Skinny Dip by Carl Hyacin.
Oh, I love it. That's a great book. I've read it. Yep.
Carl Hyacin he's one of my favorite humor novelists. He writes these stories that are based upon this idea of a totally insane version of Florida, which anybody else, I haven't been to Florida. I cannot vouch for the fact that people in the situation of Florida is as insane as Hyacin makes it. But I would like to think that there is a fantasy wonderland known as Florida, as depicted. It is a world in which, on an anniversary cruise, a woman gets thrown off of a cruise ship, but the husband forgot that she used to be a championship swimmer, and because of the drug trade because of the drug trade off of Florida, there's just a floating bale of marijuana that she manages to swim to and hang on to. makes her way to a deserted island where the DEA comes up, and she gets rescued by this drug cop, and now the husband has no idea whether hopes that she drowned, but has no idea, and there's intrigue and all kinds of fun things happening, and also Hyacin, he knows, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, I've never actually heard it pronounced, I've just read books.
I'm pretty sure it's Hyacin. Yeah.
Hyacin, right. He really does have a way with a phrase. He's
so good.
I mean, he's not up there with P.G. Woodhouse, but then again, who is? But he'll just come up with one of these phrases that you wind up just having to go back and reread the paragraph, because there's a line for the killers, a line referring to the killers' college graduation, saying the faculty stood up and applauded louder for him than for any other graduate, because they knew that this was the last time they'd ever have to see him.
It is a great book, and I think you're right. A great book to read on a cruise ship if you're ever going on a cruise.
just not near a railing.
Skinny Dip
with wife or husband
by Carl Hyacin, and it looked like you've pulled up a book too, Frederick.
Yes, I have. This is the book that I was listening to on the way up here again.
It's a great
for
book.
The third time.
We interviewed the authors on Net at Night a couple of weeks ago.
I got to see that.
They're great. Yeah,
it's called Rework. It's from the author, or from the founders of 37 Signals, the folks who brought us
Jason
Base
Fried,
Camp and
David Heinemeier Hansen.
Yeah, it's an amazing book in terms of if you're stuck in any corporation right now, you'll listen to this book and you'll be nodding your head in affirmation after each chapter.
I agree. Yeah,
because they basically expose things like inane meetings and just how you get things done, and how you can operate in an interrupt-driven environment like a corporation, and all that stuff. It's a great book, and it's narrated extremely well, and I highly recommend it. And they're actually giving it away free, right? They're giving away the PDF on their website, or at least at a reduced price.
You can read it for free, but if you want to listen...
Right, if you want to listen, you got to buy it, and if you want the hardcover, of course, you're going to
Well, you don't actually have to buy it, because you could just go to audible.com/MacBreak.
Yes.
And we'll give it to you free. So there you go.
There you go.
Audible.com/MacBreak. If you're in the car, an hour a day, or you go to the gym an hour a day, or you work in the garden, anytime you can't hold a book, you still can get reading done. And I'll tell you, it's brought reading back to my life and to a lot of people's lives where they really missed it. I just love it. Yeah. Audible. In fact, in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and I'll listen to a book, and it puts me right back to sleep. Audible.com/MacBreak. Your first one's free. Works on over 500 devices, including all the Apple devices. I want you to give it a try. I see you were listening on your iPad, Frederick.
Yep. And it's
nice because it brings up the hold up the album art. It really is nice when you're listening to an album, or
where is it? Can you see that?
Yeah, right in front of you, or listening to a book. You really know what you're listening to.
Yeah.
It's like fills the screen.
What was the title of that book again?
Rework. Audible.com/MacBreak. We thank them for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Go ahead, Frederick. You said you have something that is not software.
It is not software. It's very low tech, and I talked about this at the top of the show. But I'm very fond of this. My find.
Your easel.
Right here, right there. Look at that. It's a little tiny easel that I got from Target for like
It's like a picture easel or something.
That's exactly what it is. It's in the frame aisle. I was looking for something to hold up my iPad because I've been playing around with different cases until I've seen yours. I haven't found one that I like. I have the Apple case. I have all that. So
I hate the Apple case. That's just horrible.
I decided I'm going to put this Jelliskin on this thing. So I put the Jelliskin on the back of it.
That's pretty.
To protect it.
Love Jelliskin.
So I can manhandle my iPad. And now I bought 2 or 3 of these little easels, and they're around the house, and I can just throw it on there whenever I need to support it. It's good.
Might as well, as long as you're talking plugs, I guess I'll make my pick be this Marware EcoView case. I did a roundup of cases for the iPad on the Daily GizWiz, so you can hear me talk about a bunch of them. I know some people like the Apple case, but at $40 for a thin rubber case, I think it's overpriced. Mm-hmm. And for $5 more, this is a leather case that gives you, I think, great protection. It's padded. It's nicely padded. It has one advantage over the Apple case right up front, which is it doesn't have a big fat apple on it. So when I'm carrying it around, it really doesn't look like I've got an iPad here. It looks like I'm a businessman carrying a notebook. It's got the elastic band closure, which it makes it very secure, but also makes it look kind of like that Moleskine kind of a thing. It just doesn't look like an iPad. It does have cutouts, of course, for all the relevant ports on the iPad. And when you open it up, you'll see that you slide it in from the top. Now, I have added a little feature that is not included. It has a tongue, same thing that the Apple case does. It puts a tongue in around the iPad, but I added some Velcro to the tongue and put a little Velcro backing into the case, just so that when that iPad's in there, that's not going to slide out. That's really in there well, and I don't want my iPad to fall out. It does slide in and is held by the frame. That's one of 2 or 3 different ways of mounting an iPad in a case, and this is my preferred way. I've seen some with a photo corner kind of a setup. I'm not crazy about that. But this has the thing that I think any case has to have. By the way, nice suede, soft suede inside. It has a stand. Now, only one, orientation. It's landscape, and the stand holds it at a particular angle, but it's just the right angle, in my opinion, for typing. It's very solid. You're not gonna knock it over. In fact, so much so that I keep my orientation locked in place. Because I just do everything kind of in landscape mode almost always, and except for pages where you have to turn it, things like that. So this is from it's $5 more than the Apple case. It's from Marware. They do a lot of good iPod cases. They make the Eco Flip, which is opens portrait wise, and this is the Eco View, which is a landscape mode. And at $45, I think they're a little bit back ordered right now. They dropped the price recently. I think this is really the best iPad case, and everybody I show it to says, yeah, that's the one I want. It also has, I don't use this, but I guess if you worked on a factory floor, it has an elastic strap that you can use to do one-handed iPadding.
Oh, that's what that's for.
Yeah.
I was wondering what that was.
So you slip your hand through the strap on the back, and I guess you'd want to put the rubber band around the back.
Oh, look at that.
In place. And now you can one-handed, and I guess, if you're a doctor or whatever, you could just do it like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I use it to hold a cleaning cloth because, frankly, if you've got an iPad, you need a cleaning cloth at all times.
Yes, you do.
And now Andrew Ihnatko with his pick of the week.
There was an app that came out just another iPad pick. I'm sorry, but it's a key app for the iPad. Dropbox just came out with an iPad version of their client. That's we've all talked about Dropbox time and time again. Now I really think that Dropbox is starting to become the 3.5-inch floppy of the 21st century. Totally. It's just a service that so many people have just as the thing they use to move files from one place to another. And the iPad version of this app is just absolutely perfect. It's absolutely everything that you would want this app to do, which is simple. Like steering wheel interface. I've got this. Obviously, I've got this on landscape mode. But you see all of your files over here. You just tap to get it. To view all the different files in your Dropbox right here. I'm looking in my pictures folder inside my Dropbox, but it lets you access the full directory structure. It will view PDFs. It will view whatever you want, and it also has the killer feature for this sort of thing. Like right now, I've got it. Looking at an RTF file, but it also has this little send button up here. Let me see if I can show it to you. Where if you tap on that, it will give you a list of every single application on your iPad that can open that document. And so if I want to send this RTF file to the 3 applications that I have that are capable of working with RTFs, I simply tap one of these apps, and it will launch that app. And it will open it within that new application. I was telling me that I accidentally tapped an application that needs an update in order to deal with this file type, but you get the idea. So it really elevates not only the iPad but Dropbox in general. I've been since the first week I've used it, I've been a free user of it because I figured that I just want to have the 2 gigs free account. Yep. So I don't want to really rely on this too much. I just want to use it just as that little floppy disk, so to speak, that I use to move files from one place to another. But the strength of the Dropbox app for the iPad, which is free, by the way, made me finally sign up for paid service so I can get more storage on it, because the ability to simply keep my keep my live projects folder on the Dropbox locally on my local hard drive, then simply grab this, go out someplace, and then know that no matter what I want to edit, no matter what I want to work with, that file will be viewable and editable on my iPad without having to do anything. No syncing, no docking, no nothing. That really elevates the iPad and shows you exactly the reason why a device like the iPad needed to be created.
You get 2 gigs free, right? And then you can buy more.
Yeah.
Then you can buy more. For a monthly fee, you can get, I think it's 15 and then 50.
Right.
I need to double check on it, but it's not terribly expensive. But obviously, for most people, just having that 2 gig flash drive, so to speak, virtually attached to all of your computers,
even that
is a big one.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't have that annoying thing that so many of these cloud services have, which is to require you to have a connection to the internet in order to have access to your files. Because each one of with the Dropbox software installed on your Mac or your PC or your Linux box, you have a physical directory on that drive that has all of those files locally. And with the iPad, it's a little bit. So if you don't have, even if you don't have a connection to the internet, you'll still have access to all your files locally. Now the iPad app works a little bit differently. It obviously doesn't just simply, when you launch it, sync down every single file you've got on this 50 gigabyte Dropbox into your iPad. But it does something that is just as cool, which is any one of these, when you're viewing any one of these documents or files, if you just click on the star button, it's not just you're not just favoriting it, it will download that file directly into the application's local storage. So I might when I got my travel documents for my upcoming trip in June, as usual, I printed it out as a PDF. And saved it to my Dropbox so I'd have it handy. When I leave the house, I'm certainly going to tap the favorites button to make sure that I will have that document not only viewable on my iPad via Dropbox, but it will live in that directory so that I don't, if I'm at the airport, I'm in a cold zone for coverage, for Wi-Fi coverage or 3G coverage, I'll still have access to all my documents. Just one tap and that's it. It's hands down the easiest way to move a document from your desktop onto the iPad and then do useful things with it. It's it's one of my highest. It's one of those things where as soon as it was released, I knew that this is not, my iPad just magically got cooler than it was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
This would be, a good use case for Apple to make MobileMe free and make it more competitive with something like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The other piece of the Dropbox that I love is sharing. You know, being able to say this directory or this folder, share it. Right. And now, as I collaborate with someone and they add images to that directory or remove or whatever, it automatically gets synced down to all my machines, and I can see it from my iPhone or iPad.
Well, and of course we do that with This Week in Photo photography. When you record the show here in the studio, we drop it on the Dropbox, and it's shared with you.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another great feature of the Dropbox app. There's also a link button at the top, so that instead of just simply opening it in a document, you can actually create a link to this and then either copy to the clipboard so you can paste into a mail message, or just simply tap it, email this link to somebody. Now somebody can actually access that file individually via that URL on the Dropbox.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Big box of solutions.
We are out of time. You know, Alex Lindsay is in Africa. I think he's going to be back next week. I think he's found a gigabit connection in Harare, so that'll be nice. And Merlin Mann was busy writing, but he'll be back soon. We asked Leander Kahaney to join us, and he said, not for all 2 hours. And we said, well, yeah. He said, So I thought we'd do a shorter show today to show him we could do it. And, in fact, we are, 1 hour and 56 minutes in. So, you see, Leander, you should have been here. You should have been here. Frederick Van Patten.
Frederick Van Patten.
You're the one that's a tennis pro, aren't you?
I love
it. Frederick Van Dyke.
Yeah. Frederick Van Johnson was here. Thank you for being here. FrederickVan.com is a place to go to learn more about him. And the new company,
MediaBytes.com.
Media, B-Y-T-E-S.
Yes.
That's very cool.
.com.
Thank you for being here, Frederick. It's great to see you. Don't be a stranger now that you're no longer working for anybody we care about.
That's right.
Except yourself.
That's right.
I like
As it should be.
As it should be.
Yep.
Andy Ihnatko does work for somebody we care about, the great Chicago Sun-Times, one of the last great newspapers in America, and still printing on dead trees since 1869. And
you don't have to worry about the tree menace so long as the fine men and women of the Sun-Times are at their posts.
God bless them.
We kill them by the millions with a smile on our faces.
Absolutely. And they make wonderful parakeet cage liners.
Not my section of the paper.
Yeah, I know. Of course not yours. CWOB.com is his website, too. The celestial waste of bandwidth. Thank you, Andy, for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget, if you want the opposing viewpoints from a credible spokesman, we do a Windows show, too. Windows Weekly. We do that show every Thursday at the same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, live.twit.tv, 1800 UTC. You can also, of course, download Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott. It's really, it's kind of an anodyne to the Mac fanboy. So those of you who are listening going, I need an anodyne.
Keeps the universe stabilized.
It does. It does. Well, he actually debunks, and I didn't do this story because he debunked it, that whole netbook sales declining due to the iPad thing. We'll talk about that on Thursday. If you believe what they're saying, that the iPad's killing netbooks, Paul begs to differ, and he'll explain why. All of our shows, though, are on twit.tv. You can subscribe to each and every one of them, most of them in video as well as audio now, including this show. twit.tv/MBW for this show. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. All right, now back to work. Break time's over.